Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and it's a very sunny day here in Wales, but the sun keeps going in and out of the clouds, so I can't control the light and shade and shadows, but I'm doing the best I can. Now, this is actually the video that I've been slightly dreading making because this, as you know, because you've already seen part one, and if you haven't seen part one, I will put the link into the description box. If you look in that corner of the video, there should be a little V. You click on the V and it'll drop down. The description's in there, and also I'll put a link to number one. And when I do number one, I'll put a link to number two video. So this is the cover, as you know, of my new, I'm struggling with the name. It's not really an art book, it's not really a collage book, it's not really a glue book, it's sort of a creative book that I'm going to start working with my collage and my art pieces, and basically it is an art book. So anyway, this is the cover, and as I said, I was going to bring you all along on the journey when I actually collaged this and made it into the cover for my art journal, because I've made the back cover look like this, and you know on the inside of each cover I've got this. However, I wanted to make this a little more special, but I'm a bit nervous because I've never actually created a piece of art with a camera pointed at me before. Yeah, I know it's probably a silly worry of mine, but it's like, because at the end of the day I have the power to not publish this video. It's just, I don't know, it just feels a bit weird to have someone watching me. So what I'm going to do is a couple of things. I'm going to put my timer on for an hour. Not that I'm sticking to an hour, because of course after this I will edit bits out, and during the hour I may have to pause anyway to let pieces dry before I start up again, but it gives me some indication as to how I'm going along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first do a little bit of prep work on this, and then I'll show you the elements, the images, the stuff I'm thinking of bringing in. But first thing I want to do is, whenever I've done a background like this with book pages, I come in and I do a bit of dry brushing just to knock it back in different sections. So I'm taking some paint, I'm taking white. I could be using white gesso at this point, but I'm just using white acrylic if I can open the pot. So I'm just going to put it onto just a piece of paper. I'm not bothered that it's on a palette or anything. There's plenty of kitchen towel or paper around. I've even got a bowl of water on the floor behind me in case I make too much of a mess. I have stuff everywhere on the floor around me. So I'm just going to come in and I'm just basically putting little bits of white paint onto my brush, and I'm brushing them in a vertical and horizontal motion. And what this will do is it will just take back the text a little bit to push into the background. So as I said, I don't know how this is going to go. It just feels really peculiar, and I know everyone out there's rooting for me to do it and have fun, and hopefully you're all going to like what I've done in the end, but it still feels weird, people. It still does feel a little bit weird to have people watching me. I mean, how do you feel when someone watches you? I don't know, it's like, it's funny, when you look at the great creators and artists and geniuses out there in the world, both present and past, if you look at them, I'd say they've probably led quite solitary lives. I think anyone who is creative tends to work on their own. Before I think about this, by the way, I've got the camera or the iPad pulled really far back so you can get a whole picture of this. However, I'm likely to hit my head on it, so because I'm not used to being this high, so please forgive me if the camera suddenly shudders. If that does happen, I'll try and edit it out. So I put white on there. I want to put a bit more colour on there as well. Where did I put that colour? There it is. Right, I'm going to use this colour. I wanted a pink, but the only pink I've got other than this is actually a really, really vibrant pink, which wasn't the colour I thought it was when I bought it. But I just want to put a little bit of pink into this. Again, I've just put a little bit on my bit of book page. I use old book pages for stuff like this because then I don't have to wash the palette afterwards. I just want to bring colour in. Now, as with everything that I'm doing, it's going to be layers. It's going to be lots and lots of different layers. So, and you'll note I'm not waiting for the white to dry in between, because I like the fact that it blends in and actually makes it a paler pink for me. So just clean off the excess on my brush. I mean, not that I'm telling someone how to paint, but just so you can see, because the thing is, with only seeing that, you can't actually, well, it's probably a good thing you can't see what's going on around me actually, because it's absolutely everywhere. I've got ink, I've got stamps, I've got rice paper, I've got napkins, I've got paints, I've got ink pads, I've got stencils, I've got everything is out on my floor or around me. I can't wait to have the craft cave finished, so there'll actually be a place when I'm finished for me to put everything as I'm working. So I'm using this colour, it's one of my favourites. It's called Deep Turquoise. I just love it. It's one of those, if I was going to use any colour at all with pink, it would be this one. So I'll pull this colour in. Anyone who's seen my work probably has seen this colour before. Now, there's going to be some quiet times in this video of me not talking, because to be honest with you, I'm probably going to have to do some thinking as well. So, as I said, we're just building layers. So I want to clean that brush off again. And I want to put a little bit more white over the top of this. And then while that's drying off, I can actually show you what I'm thinking or what I'm planning to use. But I want more layers of paper on top of this anyway. Because I do. I don't want it to just be book page. I want there to be bits of music paper in here, maybe the odd bit of, well, just bits of everything really. So it's all about layers. I mean, I am by no means anywhere an expert in mixed media. I would love to be an expert in mixed media, but I think the thing about mixed media is it's all about layers. Everything is absolutely about layers. So, and I quite like the layers, because if it goes wrong, yeah, just stick another layer over the top of it. This is a little distracting where I've got a lace curtain with a pattern on that's in front of me with my window, and that's what you see in there. As you can see, it doesn't actually exist. And as the sun comes and goes, it fades in and out. And I'm trying to look through an iPad to judge what the colours are. So it's not an easy task, but it's one that I'm hoping is going to be worth it. Right, this is going to go into the bowl of water. Just for a little bit of a clean up, because if I was doing this without being videoed, I'd probably do this, then I'd go and wash my brush out in the sink, and then I'd come back. But I'm trying to be a little conscious of the time I'm going to take. So that's just roughly cleaned up. That can go to one side. So now I've got that in and it's actually drying, and dry brushing means it's not going to take a lot of time to dry. Let's look at what I've pulled out that I think may end up on this cover. Now when the cover is completely finished, and I won't be doing this next, the last stage with you watching because it's pointless, but once it's completely finished, I'm going to use Mod Podge and I'm going to brush it all over the entire surface of it, and then what will happen is that will then protect it from day-to-day damage. Now the back of each of the covers is already collaged up. I've got Mod Podge on it, so it's slightly protected. I'll drop it anyway, Griffiths. Slightly protected, but you know what? This is a working art book. If it gets splashes, it gets ink on it, it gets character. So I'm not going to be precious about keeping things really clean. Right, where should we dip into? So I pulled out my box of stencils. I love stencils. I mean, I pulled to the top a couple of my favourites. I mean, that's a Tim Holtz one, obviously. Can't remember where I got that from. I can't remember where I got that one from. Those are a couple of my newest purchases, as you've seen in a previous video. And then I've just got a whole box of stuff in here. So I'm not sure what I'm using. I will just go by gut instinct and use what I want when I get there. So that's that. I pulled out some different sort of papers, and I'll explain why as I go along, because I do want to break this up from just being book page, and then we'll probably dry brush and white over that again to knock it back one more time. What else is on here? I pulled out a few stamps that I know I'll probably use. That's a new one. I really like that. That's the one I did in the recent product review. So I might have a couple of splats on here at some point. I want to use that butterfly stamp because I really like it. And there's another script one. I will use that on here as well. What else is on this table? I've pulled out a selection of napkins. Each of the napkins I'm using or have bits and pieces left over from are napkins I like anyway. Just because I pulled them out doesn't mean they're all going to be used, but at least I've got them to hand. I don't have to go rooting through boxes for it. I don't even know what colour scheme we're using. I think I use that one far too often, to be honest. I love that one as well. So, and that's one I've not used before either. So I'm going to actually just let the collage tell me where it wants to go. And on top of all that, I've got my pack of rice papers, which, you know me, I love my Stamperia rice papers, so I've got quite a few in here. I'm not sure what's going to be used. I don't know. I'm going to go with the flow, to be honest. And then underneath this, there's tissue papers that I use as well. So you can see I've tried to pull in as many different things as I possibly can. And I'm sure there's stuff here that I've actually forgotten to tell you that I've just pulled in. Right, that is already dry now. So I'm going to come in and I want to add in some of the extra papers. Now, for those who know me, you will know music is quite important in my life. So I'm actually going to put a few pieces of music paper on here. And I'm just going to use a Pritt stick because, as I said, at the end of all of this, I'm going to come in and Mod Podge over the whole top. Will seal everything down anyway. And I've never had a problem with stuff that's come off with a glue stick, but I do put quite a considerable amount of glue on to start with. So let's put a piece of that just by there. And I've got my flexible card, club card, could be a door key from a hotel, anything like that. I do want a couple of pieces of music, so I'm just going to add them in around. There you go. So hopefully you enjoyed video 1. I haven't really done many videos that are like builds or videos of that type, but I intend to in the future. So if you enjoyed that, thank you very much. If you've commented, liked, given me a thumbs up, added subscription, done notifications and all of that. As I said, I am going to be doing more how-to videos, should we call them, if I'm going to call them that. I quite like that piece, but I don't like that bit there, so let's take that down. Yeah, as I work through, I keep promising that I'm going to do a 12 by 12 series. I am, but as I keep telling everybody, here in Wales, our shops are still shut because we're in lockdown, which means I can't go and shop for the 12 by 12 pads that I want. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, you can just order them online. I don't want to order them online. I want to go in, I want to root through a whole pile of 12 by 12s and actually pick out ones that, or a one that's going to work for what I have in mind, and one that's got a lot of variety in it, so I can use it for different things. Put you right down the middle there. But I don't know what pad it's going to be. I would imagine it's more than likely to be a Stamperia pad. Right, I think that's enough music paper, so the music paper can go back into the box from whence it came when I get that far. Let's take that out, that, and that. Okay, let's put that on there, that's fine. Sorry, I do talk to myself, so if I'm talking to myself, it could possibly be for you as well, but I've just forgotten you were there. Because when I do my art stuff, I tend to get engrossed. Right, bit of coffee dye paper. I quite like the grunginess of this, so I'm going to take a piece of this off here. And I think I'm just going to pop that down in that corner there. Really, I've run out of glue stick already, but guess what? I have another one. So be prepared. Yes, I was a Boy Scout at one point. God, that seems like a very, very, very long time ago. So hopefully you're all enjoying yourself out there. I mean, for me, it's, what day is it? It's Good Friday today, Easter Good Friday. So hopefully you're having fun with family or doing whatever you want, or maybe you're like me, you're in the craft room this morning. So that doesn't look like I glued that enough there. Let's lift that up a bit. Yeah, I didn't put glue on that bit. I got distracted. There you go. Now I do have different sorts of glue here, so if I find one type of glue isn't working for me, I can use another type of glue. I've got bookbinder's glue from Pinflair, I've got tacky glue as well, I've got Pinflair glues, I've even got hot glue, which I would very unlikely to be using hot glue on something like this, but you never know. If it's not going to stick, I'm going to stick it down with something. So another little bit up there. Anyone who knows me knows that random is really difficult for me to do, and I'm desperately trying to be a little more random with this design. This cover is for me. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm not trying to make it aesthetically beautiful or pleasing to anyone else except me. I've just brought you along for the journey because I'm trying to be more open and more sharing with what I do, how I do it, when I do it, where I do it. So just know that it's just for me, and at the end of the day I'm the only one I have to please, and I like the fact that I have the freedom of that in my artwork to be able to do that. So I think we've got enough coffee paper on there, so coffee dyed can go back over to one side. I did pull out some of this paper, but I'm not sure that I want it on there, so that again is going to go to one side, and the little bits. Okay, I would really like to incorporate some of this paper into this spread, and it's sort of an emotional thing for me, this paper. My craft room is currently my mother's old bedroom. My mother unfortunately passed away about 2.5 years ago now, and her bedroom has become my craft space. And as anyone who's been following me knows, I'm just about to have the builders in, because I'm eventually in a place where I'm like, okay, Mum loved my artwork, she was very supportive, she would not mind if I turned this room into my craft cave. I mean, she'd be ecstatic about it, to be honest with you. She absolutely loved my creativity. She wasn't really sure sometimes what I was doing, and was like, really, what is that you've got up to this time? But you know what, we had an absolutely amazing relationship, my mother and I. We had the same sense of humour, and that, I can tell you now, that was a bit of a threat to other people, the two of us together. We thought alike, we talked alike. I would say my mother and I were probably more like siblings than actually mother and son. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is because this is actually the existing wallpaper that's on the walls of this room as I speak. So I thought, you know what, I wanted to take little bits of this out of here and just add them in, so whenever I do any work in this craft cave in the future, if I'm working in this book of mine, then there's a little bit of history here with me. There's a little bit of something from my mother, who would have been absolutely adoring this journey that I'm on at the moment. So that's why that's there. And I think at that point we can stop talking about that and move on, because otherwise, guess what? I'm going to get all emotional, and we don't need to go there with that. So, but there you go. So I know that that's on there now, and that's a little nod to Mum, and I'm quite happy about that. Now I was going to add these in, but I think it's quite thick, and I don't want to add it just yet. So I'm going to come back in, put the lid back on top of the glue for a second. I'm going to come in with a little bit more of the white acrylic, and I'm going to grab that brush that I washed and just take a little bit more of that, and again just knock back the edges so that it all becomes one coherent piece again. Now, one thing I have learnt through doing this type of artwork is sometimes what you put on the page may never be seen, because I don't know which direction this is going in. When it's all finished, I may not see bits of this. It may actually have been completely and utterly covered with something else. I'm looking here and I want to lighten that bit up a bit, just a tad, because it's looking a bit grey for me. So I'm just going to go in and put a bit of gesso in there. Not gesso, I mean white acrylic. Although you could use gesso, and a lot of the time I do use gesso. Right, let's have a little bit of a think. Take some of that back. Right, okay, time to have a 2-minute think about this. Right, now, that's given me a foundation, so of course I need to build layers over layers over layers over layers. My gut instinct is telling me I should probably put some stenciling on here now, if that's the direction I want to go in, and I think it possibly is. And looking around, I'm thinking I'd quite like to add some of these numbers because they're quite bold, and if I put them into like the background somewhere, I think I'd like to do that. Now, there's always a problem when you do stenciling that sometimes the paint will seep under it. And if that happens, I'll just call it grungy. And that's fine. And there's layers and layers and layers going over the top of that. Now, when I do anything where I'm using a stencil, I go out and buy cheapest chip sponges, cut them into sections, and then I use a sponge to dab the paint on, because I found if I use a brush, I tend to get more and more paint on there, whereas I do this with a bit of sponge, I won't. So I think I'm going to come in here. Yes, and I'm going to use black acrylic paint. I'm going to put a little bit out on my mat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and then dab it off until I've only got a really fine amount, and then I'll keep revisiting that. So I think I'll go about there on that one. Trick is to not let the whole thing move around on you. So, and I don't mind if it's not a solid black number, it just needs to be a number. Lucky enough, it did come out a solid black number. Now, I've chosen 61. Let's just line that up just by there. For a reason. Because I'm 61 this year. I turned 61 at the beginning of this year, and I thought, you know what, I'll put the number 61 on here because it reminds me of what age I was when I started, and that'll actually tell me what year I did this in as well. So that gives me a 61. I'm going to turn this on its side, pull it up so it's still in camera, and I think I'm going to put some numbers down here as well. If I do 6, 7, 8. So, sorry, did I just hit you with my head? That's the trouble when you're 6'1" and you've got the camera up higher than you have normal. It's weird. I don't know if any of you do YouTubes, and I'm sure some of you do YouTubes. How do you craft when you do your videoing? I always stand up. I'm not used to sitting down to craft when the camera's on. So I don't know how you guys do it. Do you sit down? I know some of you sit down to craft because I've seen your videos. I watch lots of different people's videos. I love watching people create. I get inspired by. I learn from it as well. There's techniques that are out there that I don't know or I've never met. Yes, I'm liking that. I think I want to put one more number up here though, and the number I'm going to put up here is the number 4. For some reason, number 4 is a lucky number for me. I've always loved the number 4, so I'm going to put the number 4 in because, as I said, at the end of the day, this collage cover is for me. And if I put things I love or things I really mean things to me on it, then that's what I'm going to do. So let's just lift that off there gently. Okay, I'm happy. I've got numbers on there now. This is going to be dropped straight into the bowl of water because otherwise it'll be a nightmare for me to clean. So there you go, fully submerged. Cheapest chips, in the bin it goes. Doesn't need to be kept. I'm quite happy with throwing that away. I'm not sure what the state of my hands are going to be by the end of this, however, because I'll build up. Ah, there you go. There's Biscuit in the garden having a bark. What's he having a bark about this time? So, I don't know. Biscuit tends to... Sorry, for those of you who don't know, we've got a yellow Labrador called Biscuit, and for some reason, every time I film, Biscuit decides he has to be vocally present within it. And you never know, at one point, I might actually introduce you to him live I might be doing some face-to-face videos, and I'll see if I can get him to come into the craft room with me. So that'd be interesting for all of us, wouldn't it? So that's given me that base there. I think I now want to go in with some text. I think now is about the time I want to introduce a little bit of Timmy Holtz here. Sorry, I mustn't call him Timmy. Tim. That's a Gail Augustinelli thing, that is. I've just watched one of her Etsy share videos this morning, and she was calling him Timmy on the video, and she always has called him Timmy. And I know he knows she calls him Timmy as well. But it was funny because I'm now picking up on it. I'm like, no, he's not Timmy, he's Tim. So, right, let's have a look. I'm going to use archival. I'll pull all the archival links over and see what we've got that'll work. Well, grey is going to be too pale. There's that colour again. I like that colour. Red, it's not Christmas, I'm not using that. Coffee, I'm not sure about coffee. Sepia, no, and I might use some green. There you go. Let's put those all back over there. I might use stamping in another layer later on, so I'm not going to be married to just doing one colour. So I'm going to take my ink pad. Now when I ink, I tend to put the ink pad onto the stamp, so that's what I'm doing over here in the corner. Unfortunately, I haven't got a 2-camera setup, or I could be quite clever and show you from different angles, but that's not going to happen. So, right, I never mind which way up things are, whether they're upside down, the right way up, whatever. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, because I think art should be almost a 360 thing. Did I hit the camera again? My glasses. I think I did. Sorry. So I think that's enough for the teal. Let's come in. I'm going to do a bit of the green this time. I like this colour green actually. What one is this? Fern green. I love the fern green in the archival. I tend to use it quite a lot, as well as using the Seafarer colour, which is that colour. Let's put a little bit of Mr. Holtz down there. And just do a bit of, I'm sure there's probably enough on the ink pad as it is. Yep, just bits. So it's all about those gradual layers, just building up little bits behind. Right, I'm going to come in with my red colour now. What was it? Lighthouse. But I'm going to clean my stamp off on a book page first, because otherwise, guess what? Green and red, they make brown. And I was not looking for brown at this point, so we may have brown in later on. It's a beautiful day out there. So I'm just going to come in through there, I think. And a little bit more down there. And a little bit of secondary stamping up there. Okay, I think that's enough. It's enough for the time being anyway. Because again, it's just a layer. Right, I'm going to leave these out just in case I go back to one of those colours later. But I've got a feeling if I did script stamping later on, it's probably going to be black or maybe sepia in colour, just to pull it all together. Now, I'm not going to stamp the butterflies yet, and I'm not going to stamp the coffee dyed or anything like that yet. Not coffee dyed, the coffee rings or splats just yet. Now, I'm beginning to think, right, we need to start working now with the rice papers, because I've got the backgrounds in. Am I in shot? Yes, I'm doing quite well to keep in shot. I did purchase this one. Let's take it out of its bag so it doesn't blind you with its reflections. I did buy this Stamperia rice paper specifically with this project in mind. So I can never find the names on Stamperia. They've all got numbers. I always thought it was in Spain, but it says it's from Hungary, Budapest, Hungary. I love Stamperia stuff. Absolutely love Stamperia rice papers. So I really wanted to use this on here, and that's the reason I bought it. So I'm also, if I go over any holes. I will just pop the hole through later, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now for me, it's obvious I'm going to tear that down there. Now there are people out there who use a water brush and they'll wet the rice paper and then it tears easier. That's fine. I just don't ever seem to have much of a problem just tearing it by hand, to be honest. I suppose if I was trying to be really accurate and tear out different shapes, a water brush might be a lot more helpful there. But I don't have any problems this way. If there's any of the large fibres, I'll just snip them. I think I can go across here. So I've been looking at that thinking I want that up there. I think that's where that's going to go. Actually, there's probably not. Now, I don't really want straight edges on the side, because if you have a straight edge, it doesn't tend to blend into the background as well. So I'm just going to come down here and tear this edge off as well. Do I want the word butterfly at this point? I don't know that I do want the word butterfly. Let's take it across there. Now, any scrap bits of rice paper just go back in the box, and believe me, they do get used again in the future. So I think that might go just by there. I do feel I want another butterfly somewhere. Maybe that one by there. Yes, I keep saying in all of my videos, if Stamperia ever watches one of my videos, please consider me as someone who would promote you for your rice papers, because I do genuinely use them and I do absolutely love them. Right, these are going to go over to what I've got, a scrap bag here, and we'll be visiting this afterwards anyway. It's a big plastic bag, and anytime I have bits left over from doing rice paper or collage, they go in there so that I know that I've saved them and they're to one side. Now, I don't mind the curl, but I hate that actual lighter bit on the edge. So again, I'm going to just take that piece off there so that when it goes onto my piece there, it's not going to be as obvious that it's a whole piece of rice paper. Oh, the sun's gone in. Oh, the sun's coming back out again. Wish it would make up its mind. Right, let me just reach over and get... I use these brushes. I've had them quite a while actually. They come in a set of 3. Let's see if I can find the other 2. There's a really wide one, and I think there's a really narrow one. I have no idea where the narrow one is. Oh, there it is. They come in a set of 3. I do use them all the time. This one, however, I use, but it doesn't really fit into the pot nicely of the collage medium that I use. So I do use it, but sometimes it's a bit tricky using it. I would normally use this size. I'm going to try and use this size today because it's a wider area. Now, as you just saw, I do use the Ranger collage medium, and I do have a backup. I wish they did this in a bigger size pot because I use this a lot for what I do. So I'm going to come in. I think I'm going to put this one down first. So I'm going to come in, see it only just barely fits in there. I'm going to come in and put a good coating of this medium down first of all. And sorry if my arm is in the way. I'm going to lay that on top, and then I'll brush from the inside to the outside just to make sure that it's all on there, nicely blended. All of the edges are worked through. And as you can see, it becomes slightly transparent. And I love that. I absolutely love the way it just disappears into the background. Right, this one, I get this on here. There are other mediums out there you can do this with, I'm sure. It's just, I think when I started doing collage, this was the first one I ever used, and I loved it, and I didn't see the point of changing it. It worked for the purpose I wanted it for, so I just stuck with it. Is it the cheapest on the market? No, it's not the cheapest on the market, but you know what? I'm a great believer in you get what you pay for. Maybe one day I will change to another brand, but I don't know. Right, what I'm going to do now is, because I know where the holes are in this, I'm going to take a cotton wool bud, and as you saw before, just push that down just to start the hole off for me. I may not have done that properly. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Right, I'm going to tear that bit away. I think I was probably better to have waited for that before I did that. Apparently it works on paper, it doesn't work on rice paper. So let me just see whether I can do a little bit of a hodgepodge of a repair on that. Right, I'm going to take a little bit of the piece that I actually tore off. I'm going to stick it over the top of there in a moment. So there you go, let's take that out of there, put that over there, put back on there. That'll blend it in. So basically I've just repaired it with another piece of its own printed paper, and I don't mind that it looks like that. Take the glue out the middle of that hole. So there you go. Now I need to pop this one in here. I said I had it in there, didn't I? Right, I think I need to open up the other pot because I'm going to need it for this, I think. So let's just get a good wallop of that out of there. Right, all the way down there. Now you could paint the medium onto the back of the rice paper, then attach the rice paper. I, however, am not very successful at doing that. So I always tend to paint the area I'm sticking it to and not the back of the rice paper. Is that straight? I can't see whether that's straight. I don't think that is straight. So it's the only trouble working through an iPad. I can't get directly above it. That feels straighter to me. Let's work it all out. There you go, that feels straighter to me. So hopefully in the camera you're going, yes, that's straight. So give it a really good coat over the top just to make sure it's nicely in place. Okay, and I didn't need all of that, so I'm just going to put the lid back on the new one. So right, so that's another layer of stuff on there. That's enough for the rice paper for the time being, is it? I don't know. Let's have a little look in the scrap bag. Actually, I'm going to take this to one side a second, and I'm going to pull the scraps out just to see what is in here that I might want to pull in. Right, that's off the paper now. That was off a violin one, but it's the right colours. That was off the paper used. This was off a fish thing that I did. Don't mind, I could use that on there. Sure, don't think sure needs to go on there. Don't need that. Why is that in there? That's a napkin. There's a little bit of something, a bit more of a something. I'm not feeling those. Right, okay. Just pulled a few scraps out just because I always pull the scraps out just in case there is something that is just begging to be on that page. Right, and let's take, I know you're probably thinking you'll keep anything. That little scrap I took off there, that's going in there as well. So that's gone into my bag. Let's pull these over to one side and bring this back in again. So right, where do I want to go from here? Quite like that. I think I'm probably going to put that there, but I'm not sure yet. This was that bit that was the green. I do quite like that. I'm going to just tear this edge because I don't want that to be a cut edge. I want that to be a torn edge. So I'm just going to sit down there, probably overlap the numbers a little bit. Actually, I'm being a bit precious about the numbers, not covering them up, and that's not the point. What's this bit hanging on here? So, and that's not the point. Right, where are you gone, mister? Lay that down there. So even though it's not part of this set, it actually still brings in an element into it that I like. This was from another one. I can't remember where this is from. I think that might go down there. So as you can see, nothing goes to waste. So I just dropped a piece of that on the floor. Right, what else did I have here? Yeah, it's just a little insignificant piece. Let's pop you in by there. If there's anything I am slightly aware of when I do this sort of stuff, is I'm aware of verticals and horizontals within a design. Don't know whether that's 100% necessary, but it's just the way that pleases me. As those of you who know me will know, I am OCD, so I'm not hugely OCD, but I'm enough to line the tins up in my kitchen cupboards and enough to line up the paints in colour order and stuff within my workshop. And yeah, and I'm a little bit of a neat freak as well, so it kind of all ties itself in together for me. Right, I'm just adding these random pieces on now, just to add a bit more visual texture. And I've got one more little bit here, and I'll just use up the last of what's in this pot. Actually, I think it needs to go over that, because that's a little bit too dominating than what I wanted it to be. So, right, so I've got all of that lot down. I think that's enough of that pot. That's another one gone. So, Timmy, please, sorry, Timmy, I've done it again. Tim, please make bigger pots of that collage medium, because I use it all the time and I'm sick of buying all the little pots. So, right. Now, because I don't want it to dry out, this is actually going in the water bowl as well. I don't normally leave my paintbrushes in the water bowl. However, in this instance, it's going to be in the water bowl because I haven't got time to stop and move on. Right, I think that's a good enough place to go to at the moment. It's pretty wet. I mean, I can see down here is dry. There are patches of dry here. But what do I want to do next is the next question. I think I want to leave this for a few minutes to just dry. And what I'll do is I'm going to put you on pause. Then I will come back from pause. And once I've come back, this will be dry. And then we can go on to the next stage. So I will see you in a moment, guys. So here I am back again. Washed the stencil, washed the collage brush. Made a cup of coffee because I needed a cup of coffee. Just taking a look at this just to see how we're doing. If there's any bubbles, I usually just press them down my fingers, but to be honest with you, when the collage medium dries, it sort of tightens up again. So I think this is slightly damp, but I think I can still keep on working with it. But there's some decisions to be made now anyway. Gulp of coffee. Now, I'm tempted to go in and do a little bit more white dry brushing over parts of this, but I'm going to have a think first of all. I need to now work on almost like a feature, and this area is saying to me that it needs something, and I think it needs to be a feature element. And I'm just going to go through this box of rice papers, because obviously I like the rice papers, and see what's in there. Now, I'm not sure that I want to put a rose there. I mean, it would work, but I'm not hugely convinced it needs to be a rose. But I'll put that up there. I could take her out of there and put her in there, and she's sort of got the right colours, and I could pull some of this in, so I'm not sure about that. That's actually quite lovely. That might be a pot. Let's put that on this side as a definite maybe. I had this left over from a Christmas spread. I'm not seeing Bambi in my spread, to be honest. I've got different tissue papers here as well, and I was thinking maybe I should come in with something from here. Oh, there's more rice paper. These are not feeling like this. That's a bit too industrial for me for this. Oh, I do have this. I didn't remember this. But is it turning too floral? It's feeling like it's going too flowery for me. I have no objection to flowery, but for some reason it just doesn't feel right. I mean, I could put elements of that into it. Not that it needs to be made masculine, and I'm feeling this is sort of making it masculine. I've got this one, but this is definitely ships and sailing and nautical, and I've sort of got an idea what I want to use that for in the future. There was nothing in the scrap bag. We've already had a look at that. I've got these musical elements, but it's not, I'm not feeling that either. I'm being tempted by a few little pieces of this, just because it's like, it's the way my brain is thinking is this is a workbook and these are working pipes and that. So let's park that one on the side as well. Right, do I want to make it? I definitely don't want that. That's not even working for me. She is very tempting. But if anything, I like that lot and not her. I mean, I do like her, don't get me wrong. But I'm liking these pieces more than that piece. And I'm wondering if I was to use that there and use some of these around the edges in spaces I've got. I mean, there is an edge on here, but I'm not sure I want to use the edge. I quite like that bit of it. And as there are quite a few butterflies on here, and butterflies seem to be quite predominant. Right, let's have a bit of a play, shall we? And art is about play, so let's take this out of here. I do apologise if you're hearing crinkling papers when I do this, and you're being blinded by the flash of plastic, but it is what it is. So I'm going to tear her out of here, I think. When I bought this one, I didn't really have a project in mind for her. I just saw and went, oh, that's a beautiful vintage type image, and I'd quite like to use it at some point. Now, there's another reason I'm sort of drawn to this bit of rice paper, and that is because it's got a dragonfly on it. And dragonflies are really important to me. Throughout my life, if I'd ever had a decision to make, or I've been worried if something was going to go right or not working well, a dragonfly would appear. And it's just become very significant to me, dragonflies, in a lot of the things I do. So, right, she's being kept, obviously. So if I could incorporate a dragonfly onto this spread, I would be very, very happy. Let's take that little bit out of there. And dragonflies apparently are significant to lots of different cultures and races because they signify change. Because they're born in the water, and then when they mature, they climb out of the water, and then they become a creature of the air. And I love that. It's just, so I'm thinking, I think that definitely needs to go on, and the only way it can pretty much go is over there. That sort of is the only place that's spare for this. Sorry, I hope I keep him. I'm trying to keep my hands in shot, but to be honest with you, I keep pulling it down so I can get a better look at it. So let's take that edge off there. Now, I'm not worried that things may be beginning to look a little bit too busy, because it doesn't matter. It's all about the layers. It's all about the interest, and I like the fact that with mixed media, not necessarily my mixed media, although it could be my mixed media, I like the fact you have to look into something. You have to look deeper. There's reasons for things, or there's no reason at all except it's aesthetically beautiful. And I like the fact that you have to almost get inside the artist's psyche, if that's the right word to use. I don't know whether it is the right word to use, but you know where I'm going with this. Right, I'm going to take this little bit out of here, and then I'm going to save this bit to use with the woman's face when I actually do use the woman's face. I just like the patterns, the visual texture this gives you. And if you've watched my video on harvesting images, you'll know I'm all about visual textures. I like a visual texture. I quite like that visual texture there, to be honest, but I'm thinking I want it just slightly upwards. and might fit into that gap there. Yeah, right. I'm going to use the smaller brush for these because I don't need a huge expanse of anything on here. And I thought if I get these down before I make a decision on the next bit, then these will be dry enough for me to work over the top of. So let's put him down over here. I don't know why it's suddenly a him, but for some reason it's now a him. I don't think I put enough collage medium under that area there. So just brush that down. I love the way rice paper dissolves into the background. So give it a good enough coat and it's all on there nice and happily. This little bit up here. I must remember to drink my coffee. I am notorious. My family always know where I've been in a building, because what I do is I walk around and I'll leave half cups of coffee everywhere because I've drunk them or not drunk them. And the same with food. And I think you'll find it's a lot like that with a lot of creative people. You forget you were eating or you forget you were drinking and you just walk around and you leave stuff all over the place. I do. I'm terrible at it. I mean, you can always tell where I've been. I mean, I'm very good. I mean, the food doesn't get left out for weeks on end or anything. I mean, I usually, because I'm back in the same places every day, because this is my craft room. My house isn't that big. It's only like a 3-bedroom house. And so therefore, I don't forget things, but I come across them and go, oh, that's where it was, is it? So it's that sort of scenario. I keep forgetting that I'm in the middle of something, and then I'm very easily distracted. You know the old word, squirrel? That's me, I'm gone. I've forgotten what I was doing and I've been distracted by something pretty, or something's caught my eye, or someone's been talking on a YouTube, because normally, if I'm working in my craft room, I very often will have YouTube on in the background, just because it's company. I mean, I don't know, what do you guys do, guys? I tend not to actually put the radio on, because the radio can sometimes be annoying if the presenter isn't one you're really into, or the news will come on and then I'll get distracted, or they'll be having an interview or something and I'm like, ooh, and then I lose my train of thought. I love music, absolutely love music, although I always forget to put that on because I just forget to put it on. I mean, I used to have like a CD player, and I always used to have that in the background, but it broke down ages ago and I never bothered replacing it. Sip of coffee. And then my sister has bought me an Alexa button. She bought it for me for my birthday. Ooh, quite a while ago. I don't even think it was my last birthday. It might have been the birthday before last, to be honest. And because the Craft Cave has never been done, I've never bothered to plug it in and take it out of its box, although I will do in the future. What is that? Oh, that's the edge of the windowsill. Okay, I'm trying to be ahead of the shadows here, so hopefully that's not cutting in too bad. So I'm not... I keep forgetting about music, but I know that when the Craft Cave is finished, I will very definitely be having music playing. Right, I'm feeling this is now wrong. Although I love it, this isn't the place for it. Right, now this is probably still going to be reasonably damp. I do think that will look lovely there. And I think I'm going to use it as like one of the final layers. I do, however, think I want to put a little bit of white on this just to knock some of the stuff back ever so slightly. And then I'll consider, do I need to add any more visual layers on there? I haven't actually used the napkin. I mean, I pulled all of the napkins out to use and I haven't used one of them. But that doesn't mean they had to be used. I mean, it's just they were pulled out because they might be used. I mean, that's quite nice, but it's too big. I've always loved this one, but probably because I like the word papillon on it. And for those who don't know, that's the French for butterfly, papillons. And I probably said it wrong, so if you're screaming down the thing, that's not how you pronounce it. I probably don't know that. So let's knock this back a bit with a little bit more white paint, a little bit more white acrylic, just to pop things a little further into the background. I don't want to lose the butterflies totally. In fact, I don't want to lose anything totally, but I do want to take some of the things back, just fractionally. I also find by doing this, it ties everything together. It just gives it a little bit of a joining, should we say. Because I also want to use a few washi tapes in this as well. So I'm looking at this area here and I'm thinking I want to really knock that bit back a bit. Because if that's going to be the centre of this-ish, I'd rather it was a bit paler. So take some of it off there. Let's see if I can just dab a bit of it off, because I think I've got a bit overboard with it there. And just lift off that bit. There you go. That's just taking that back slightly. Right, so I think now would probably be a good time if I was going to add washi tape. I think now is probably the time to add it. I've just got a wet wipe here, and I'm going to wrap my brushes in a wet wipe just so they don't dry out, because I'm going to be revisiting this these brushes in a second. Right. Quick gulp of coffee. Get rid of my paint page. Get that in the bin. Right, so before I consider this, and I'm still considering a piece of this napkin as well, I've also got my butterfly rubber stamp, which I might put in there, I might not put in there, because it could become butterfly overkill. And I do have my splats and splashes. I might put one or two of those in there as well. I just want to look at this for a second and go, right, if I'm adding washi, let's have a look at some washi. Now, unfortunately, I think it's a case of my box of washi cannot fit on the same table that I'm actually working on. So just know that's what I'm delving into. But I will show you the options I'm thinking of as I look at this. I quite like this washi because it's got interest to it. That's a bit too loud. That's kind of okay. I seem to be airing towards neutrals at the moment. That's okay, but it's too wide and I don't fancy tearing it down. I do have plain strips. The trouble with plain strips is they end up looking like stripes. But I'm going to keep that one just in case I might add a little bit here and there. I've got some with metallics, but I don't want the cover to be metallic. Don't want the numbers. I do quite like this butterfly one, and I use this one a lot. And basically this is turning into a butterfly-ish sort of spread anyway, so maybe I'll keep that out, I'm not sure. I think that might be all I want to pull out. So what other colours have I got in here? I've got greens. That's not an unpleasant green. Let's see about that as well. Right, I think because I love washies, I could use too many washies. So let's just have a second look at this at the moment. Now, I don't ever trust washi, so I will stick any washi down with Pritt Stick anyway. So, do I want a strip of this somewhere? I'm thinking it might just be a bit wide. So, love it. I should have put it in one of the previous layers. The polka dots, I keep being drawn to this every time I look at my washi tapes, but I'm not sure that doesn't work for me now. Which leaves these three. Now I'm probably going to use that one, but I'm looking at this. I quite like this. And I think if I can find the end, if I can add a few layers of this, yes, I think that works for me. Right, I'm just going to use, as I said, a Pritt Stick to stick them down. And that just means that when I do the layers over the top with Mod Podge, it'll get sealed in anyway. Right. I'm looking here. Yes, you dropped on it, but that's where you're going anyway, so that's fine. Where's my smoother? Hoping that's straight, and if it isn't, I don't care anymore. I think a little bit of that somewhere around there would work. And because I like threes, I think a little piece across there would be a good idea as well. I find it so hard to line stuff up looking through an iPad. So right, that's enough of that because I don't want to do too much of that. I am thinking the purple needs to be in this spread because it will just tie these elements together. But I think what I need to be thinking of is it's not a huge amount of purple that needs to be pulled in. So a peripheral purple, should we call it, around the edges. So, and by doing the washi now, it's giving the rest of the stuff time to dry anyway. I'm liking the idea of that just down the edge of there. Straight, there you go. Just because that'll pull that down. And I've still got stamping to go on the top of some of this stuff, so I'm not hugely worried about it. I seem to be avoiding this area, and I think it's because in my mind I've got that centerpiece in there, which is fine. That's another bit there. And I think just a little bit down here, actually, just a little nod to the colour purple. So, a little nod to the Whoopi Goldberg. So, and for those of you who are not old enough to know, Whoopi Goldberg was actually in a movie. Is it Whoopi Goldberg? Actually, I got it wrong. It's not Whoopi Goldberg. It's Oprah Winfrey. She was in a movie called The Colour Purple, which I can't remember what the theme was. I think it was something to do with, oh God, something like slavery and struggles, and it won lots and lots and lots of awards. It was a very, very good movie. But it has been so long since I've actually even thought about watching it that I can't even remember what the themes were. And it's got to be 30 years old now, that movie. It's got to be, because yeah, it's just got to be. So right, I'm going to put a piece of that right in there. Don't ask me why, I do not know. That's just where my gut said it needed to be. And I do like to decorate using gut feelings, because usually my brain is wrong, but my gut is right. So there you go, let's pull this one. I saw where I wanted it a second ago, I can't remember what it was. Oh, there we go, I want it there. And I want one more piece of it. Where do I want that? Actually, I quite like it down there on the edge. Actually, I'll put it down there on the edge of that number. Yeah, sorry the shadow's falling across here, but there isn't a lot I can do about that because it's the passing of time and the sun is moving across the sky. If I paused the video and moved everything over, which I could do, you would probably find within about 10 minutes it would keep moving over anyway, so maybe a bit of a waste of trying to do that. So right, where am I up to now? If I move it slightly, can you see it? You can still see that. you can still see it anyway. Right, so I sort of got to the point where, yes, that's definitely going to go in there. It's going to take some tearing to get that sort of accurate around the edge, but I'll do that. What I might do is I might take another break in a little while and actually try and move the camera over a bit and move the setting over a bit so that if we don't have this shadow thing, it'll give me a chance to fussy tear that out. So, sorry, another gulp of coffee. Trying to make sure I do drink my coffee for a change. So, is that becoming too much? Do I need to take something to it? That, I think, will look rather lovely there. Or will it? See, this is what happens with me. I procrastinate. That's too many butterflies, Griffiths. Can't have that one there. I still look at her and wonder whether she needs... She does fit on there really nicely. But it's not a me thing for this. And I've got to remember, this is for me. This is what I want it to be. I am drawn to this, and I keep being drawn to this. I think once I've taken most of the green off the outside, I might be happier with the way it looks. I think this is actually just a bit too dominant for me at the moment. So, do I want to do anything more with white? I think I do. I just want to take this back a little bit further again. Because I also want to put into this, I want to put in some browns. I want to bring in some sepias, probably with a little bit of stenciling. So let's take that down a bit, that down a bit, that down a bit. Let's take that back a bit. That I feel needs a bit of a blending out. This needs to be taken back a little bit, probably not that much though. Let's take my wet wipe and try and take some of it off. There you go. If you move quick, you can do stuff, that's fine. So, right, I think what I want to do is I want to come in now and do a little bit of stenciling, because I want to use that Tim Holtz, I don't know, it's called Curls and Swirls, or I've called it Curls and Swirls. It might be called Flourishes or something. I'll see if it's written on the package. I've got a feeling Tim Holtz doesn't write names on packages, they're all numbers. I think that's okay. Remember, it's called background, 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 background. Although it's very quickly coming to the point where we're talking about foregrounds. So, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to try and move this camera and this so that you're not seeing the shadow. And at the same point, I'm going to tear this out so that then we've got a realistic view of what this is going to look like. So I'll be back in a few minutes, guys. Okay everyone, I'm back. I've moved this over as far as I can this way, so we've just got it here, and hopefully by the time I finish this, this won't have crept that far, because if any more further that way and I'll run out of desk. I did tear this out, fussy tore it out, and I'm thinking I do quite like that down there, and I think that's where it's going to go. I was considering doing stenciling work first and this over the top, but I think if I do this and then do the stenciling, which will almost frame this, then we're almost at an end anyway. So I'm going to go back to my bigger brush, because obviously it's a bigger expanse, and I'm going to put this down. That's one thing about rice paper you never know, is what it's going to finally look like when you've got it on the page. Because the trouble is that it becomes transparent, but you don't know how transparent it's going to become. So let's take the bird. I thought if the bird is on the level, so is everything else. Right, I don't even know whether I put any down there. If I didn't, it is now. So there you go, let's flip that over. I don't think I've moved that. I'm not unhappy with that. Quite a bit does show through, which I'm happy with. I'm really annoyed there's a big fibre in there, but there isn't anything I can do about that because it's embedded in the paper and there's no way I will get that out. So right, now I'm doing that, let's just leave that for a second. And as I said, I wanted to bring in some stenciling and I wanted to introduce like sepia or brown tones into this. And I'm thinking I want to use the Tim Holtz one just to have little elements of it here and there. And I think I'm going to do it with inks because they're archival, therefore they're permanent anyway, and the inks will give a little more transparency than an acrylic paint. So I'm going to be using sepia, and I tend to use a brush for stenciling, so I'm going to start in corners that are away from the wet area. So I'm going to have to turn this so I've actually got a better view of it. That is dry, that's fine. And I want to just add elements. Now I have to be careful because sometimes I go over the edges of the stencil. So I start off and then I work my way on. Now I'm looking for subtlety here. I'm not looking for in your face. I'm just looking for little bits of inked colour just to give it another layer of visual texture. The deceiving thing about doing stenciling is you never know how dark it is until you've actually removed it. So let's see, that's lovely. I like that. That's just enough in there. So let's turn this around and do some other patches of it elsewhere. I think a little bit in there is going to be a good idea. Actually, if I do that bit in there, I think I can get away with that. Hopefully this is still in camera. Well, you're going to have to let me know in the comments what you feel about this video. As I said, I found it a little bit nerve-wracking knowing that you guys are all going to be watching me create, because I don't normally create on screen. But you know, it's not been that bad actually. I can kind of live with this. This is okay. I'm okay with what we've done today. I'll stick that bit down there. I'm okay with what we've done. I think that, would it have been different if I'd have had you not there? Probably. I probably would have spent maybe a little bit more time considering my choices, a little bit more time going, will I, won't I, maybe whatever. Am I disappointed with what I've done? No, actually, I really quite like what I've done. And I've just hit you with my glasses again. Sorry, I just got my finger in the lens as well, trying to stop it wobbling on you, but there you go. So there you go. I think that just a little bit brings it all back into play. Have I got that in the middle again? There you go. Let's put the lid on that and take it out of the way. A little concerned that there's a bit of a ripple in the middle. But as I said, with a lot of these things, they actually do tighten up once they're finished. So let's put that back in the stencil box. Now, I think I need to have a little think and a little look, because as I'm famous for saying, I'm bad at knowing when to stop. Gulp of coffee. But I do feel we probably need something that is dominantly in the foreground. And I do keep coming back to this butterfly. Have I got one that's not got the edge of its wing clipped? That's a better one. I'm just thinking that this might need a focal point of some sort. You have to bear with me on this one. I'm going by gut on this because I'm not really sure that what I'm about to do is the right decision. So, tissue, by the way, or napkin, I've already taken off the underneath layers of it, because obviously napkins are made up of different layers of tissue, and I've already taken the backing ones off that. So I'm thinking, because I could put the word Papillon there and that could sit on there. Let's just take the bottom off this, because otherwise I'll have a definite line. My iPad has just told me I've got low battery, so we won't be much longer, guys. I can absolutely assure you of that, because if it goes below a certain percentage, it just turns me off. And I can't plug it in because there's no socket near where I'm working. So there you go. So I need to finish this up anyway. So I really do think I want to add that across there. So I'm going to do it. Again, I'm using my medium, the Tim Holtz one. Now, when it comes to putting tissue down, you have to commit, because as soon as this tissue hits anything, it's going to stay there. Try not to get wrinkles in it though, like I just did. I think that was the right decision. Put a good coat to embed it down. I think that's fine. I'm looking here thinking I'm not sure that I like that butterfly, and I'm not sure about up there, but the only other option I really want to use is I quite like this blue butterfly, and I've used the blue butterfly quite a lot in the past, so I think he might be making a feature appearance in that spread there. Because I think that, oops, not the kitchen towel over Griffiths. I think I'd much rather have him there, because that green butterfly just isn't really working for me. So let's put a little bit of medium on there. I don't mind if the butterfly is seen in the background, that's actually okay. There you go. For me, that works better. I think I'm going to call that done, to be honest. I think it's finished. I could keep building and building and building, but I don't want to. And also, we've seen the sun has crept over again, so let's move you up over there. I think that's done. I think it's interesting. Looking at this, I think I want just a tiny tad of black script on here. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, I was going to put my ink splats on there as well, and I didn't. Never mind, maybe they weren't meant to be. I'm just going to take my Tim Holtz, and I'm just going to put the odd little bit of black script just to bring everything forward. And then I think I'm going to say that's done and dusted. And then what I'll do is I will then, once it's all completely and utterly and totally dry, I will cover it with Mod Podge, as I said, just to give me a layer of protection. I don't think that actually stamped at all there. There you go. That's better. A little bit up there. And I'm thinking I want a piece in there that's going to be a bit risky because it's still wet. But you know what? Life is a risk. There you go. Just gave me a little bit of something in there. And there. So I think I'm going to call that done, guys. That's the cover of my art journal. The next time you'll see this will actually be when I'm using it to create pieces in. I will show it in my first video using this. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it's given you an insight as to how my brain works. You've probably got a better idea than how my brain works, to be honest, because I don't know myself. I just do what I do. Sorry, I'm seeing that bit there. So, and I've just knocked the camera one more time. I think it's time to go. So, hope you enjoyed that, guys. As I said, it was just a bit of an experiment to see how things go. If you did like this, feel free. Oh, look, that's very similar, isn't it? Feel free to follow me, like me, subscribe, share, thumbs up, add a few comments because I'd like to know how you felt about this, because I didn't feel overly confident. And if you did enjoy it, I'm going to do more in the future anyway, but maybe there's ways I need to think about working it differently. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. And this is Ceri the Crafter saying goodbye. Ceri, Ceri the Crafter. See you next time. Bye bye now.